a family member was diagnosed with lupus, and I had never heard of it before. And when I told the doctor said, oh, you know what, let me look more into that. And when he did, I had majority of the symptoms. So he said, you know, I'm going to go ahead and diagnose you with lupus, even though you don't test positive for it, because 12% of women test negative when they are positive. 5 years later, in remission, I finally tested positive for lupus. But I was lucky that, you know, he seeked it out, and I started to feel better after I got on the right medications. But yeah, I think I pretty much was born with it. My mom said when I was 2, she would let me go outside in the sun in the middle of the summer and play with the water hose, and that night I'd be burning up with a fever, and she'd have to rush me to the hospital. And like I said, the doctors didn't know what was wrong. So I think
a lot of the women, don't they see it notice it during their childbearing?
Yes.
Ages?
That's what happened with my mom.
Okay.
With my brother, he's 21 now. That's when she was actually diagnosed with lupus.
Yeah.
But my grandmother said that she had known way before that point that there was something going on with her, just didn't know what it was. So it's kind of like the same story you have, Marlo.
Yeah. And then I've lost children in between pregnancies, and when I was diagnosed with lupus is when they said, you know, that's the reason why, but the doctors at the time didn't know why I kept miscarrying, and later on, you know, they said it was from lupus. But we can go many years with it without even knowing, because the doctors aren't educated. And that's why, you know, it's very important for us to keep talking about lupus and getting the word out there so people can educate themselves as well as doctors.
Okay. And I don't think it's so much that they're not educated. I think it's a very hard illness to diagnose, because it's like a copycat illness of so many other things. I know it took them almost 2 years to diagnose me, because I actually had to be in a flare-up. I kept testing, you know, like they just said my ANA level was high, my numbers were high, but they knew I had an autoimmune, but they didn't know which one. So they thought it was rheumatoid arthritis, and that's what I was diagnosed in. They said it was just fibromyalgia. And then when I was actually in a flare, that's when it tested positive for the lupus, whatever they test for. And that was a whole like 18, maybe 19 months later. So you kind of have to, sometimes you might have to be like in a flare-up in order to get the positive result of having. And then they go by the steps. They go by, there's 11 symptoms that you people with lupus have, and at that time I had 9 of them, so it was kind of easy to go ahead and diagnose it. But it's more so that it's hard to diagnose, and you're gonna have to be on top of it and know your body, because no one knows your body more than you. So, you know, if I'm telling him no, you know, I have this joint pain, and you know, it's excruciating chronic pain, I know more than anybody what this is not normal. So you just have to have good doctors and be on top of it.
Well, I'm gonna say that's good that you have a doctor that listens to you, because a lot of people don't have that luck. Like my doctors don't listen, and unfortunately, when I'm in a flare is when my blood work looks the best. When I'm feeling good is when my blood work works the worst. So they can never find anything when I'm feeling at my worst. And you know, a lot of doctors aren't, at least the ones that I've experienced, aren't really educated and don't know much about lupus. So they try to diagnose me with other things, or even there was a point where I thought, okay, is this in my head? Am I making it up myself or causing myself to feel this way? Because they couldn't find anything wrong. The only thing, like I said, was the SED rate was high. And a lot of doctors really don't know. And like I was telling Kim, I was recently in the hospital, and the doctors were trying to say I was a druggie and just wanted drugs, which, you know, I don't really condone that, and I stay away from that unless I absolutely have to. So a lot of them really don't know.
They are very, very, very ignorant when it comes to that, and it seems like they don't have the empathy they would have for someone with, cancer or
Yes.
even
Right.
anything. They're just like, you're like, I have lupus, and they're just like, oh, okay,
Right.
like.
Yeah. And my mom had to deal with that too. I had to watch her go through that, and they're looking at her like, well, you need another refill already, or what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, she really wants to be taking this stuff.
Right.
But I know Natalie had something she wanted to say.
Yeah.
So
Back to what he was saying about the campaigning. Like, it's hard for like caregivers, especially, to explain what lupus is, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, like, what's wrong with your mom? And I'm like, I tell them what it's about, and they're like, oh, at least it's not cancer.
yeah.
Or like, they're like, oh, my aunt has lupus, my cousin has lupus. They're like, but we don't know what it is. Like, it's hard for us. And then like also like maybe it's hard for me and Kamaya because we're younger, and like it's more of like for me, I never grew up like a regular kid. Like, I would always be like, oh, I'm going to a walk, I can't go with you guys. Like, I don't really hang out with friends because I'd rather raise more awareness for lupus. So yeah.
I went through the same thing too. I was young at one point. I was there. You're still young. But, okay, so we went through the caregivers' feelings, and this is a lot of good stuff. I'm glad we got all of this. So now what we want to talk about is
Maybe we don't want to talk about it. Okay.
So now we want to talk about how the caregivers cope with these things. And like I said, I know for me, I keep saying it, but I know that it worked really well with me communicating with my mom, was writing letters, because it was easier for us to talk after once she already knew what I had to say. So it was like she already got the brunt of what was going on, and then we could communicate easier. So that was one of my coping things, was writing letters to her. Also, I had a diary. I know it seems kind of old school, but I would write down my thoughts and feelings that I couldn't share with her, that I felt like would upset her or make her feel bad. So those are just a couple of the things that I would do. Do you have any that you do?
Usually I tell my mom how I feel because we're like really close. But if I don't want to tell her like in person, usually I'll text her because I text her way too much. So I'll just let it out there. But usually when she's sick and I kind of want to leave her alone, like, I know you guys need some time alone, I will like go do my homework in the living room and listen to music, and every 5 minutes I go check up on her, or I'll lay there with her and we'll watch movies. So like the way I cope with it is being with her, kind of.
Okay, that works too. What about you? What do you do to kind of cope with the feelings that we talked about over here, or just seeing your mom sick?
Mostly, I try to, I don't know, I have to like be with her because I feel like it's like available for her. I know she needs her rest, so I try not to, but it helps to be with her.
Yeah, we become like little flies, like pests. We're like,
Yeah.
are you okay? Are you okay? Are you
Like,
okay?
yes,
Like
just
every
don't-
2 seconds. Do you have anything that you do to cope with those feelings?
I use humor. I just
Humor?
try to use jokes or like watch funny movies or
that's a
send
good one.
pictures or something.
Just
That's
laugh.
great, yeah.
That's
Laughter.
nice.
Yeah.
That's medicine.
You know what? Do you remember that one time my dad came to the hospital with the book of jokes? You remember that? And I was so sick, and that was when we thought I was like dying, and I wasn't feeling it though.
Wanted to throw it out the room.
Jokes didn't work.
No, and you're exactly right. It was those jokes.
And then do you have some coping skills and things that you do?
Truthfully, I think what I do to Kim, and it helps me cope, I try to make her look better. You know, she was in the hospital, and I came by to see her, and her lips were dry, and she looked so. She was in the hospital, and I had to put my makeup on her. And I plucked her eyebrows, and I put little lipstick and everything, and it made her feel better.
Me in the hospital.
Yeah, it made her feel better. It made me feel better, and she didn't look as bad as she felt. And every time I looked at her, it made me not so sad because I just kind of and that was my coping, and prayer. And that's how I cope with it.
When you look better, you do.
Yes, she looked in the mirror and she didn't,
I was like, I'm ready to go home.
Did you want to share something?
I just try not to focus on the activity. I just focus on dreams and hopes and the future, really. I try not to reflect on the negative part of it.
Yeah.
I just try to capitalize on the time that we have.
Yeah.
Perfect. Did you want to share something that you do to cope with your mom's sickness?
When I'm like ready to cry, like I'll be in my room,
Yeah.
just like listening to music, so like I don't focus. Like
Music is always good.
Refocus.
Yeah. You can send your mind somewhere else for a little bit, so that's good. That works. And then, like she was saying, making them look better really does help them to feel better. I know I would do my mom's hair all the time, and she would just be so happy because she would be in bed and she was just laying there like, oh my gosh, I look a mess. My hair is all crazy. And then just doing her hair. So then, did anybody on Periscope throw anything out, or?
No, everybody was laughing at you. They were just laughing at the makeup thing. They were saying,
Share something about,
Mom.
actually, I was diagnosed 2011, but then they only found like my blood work was abnormal. But then I went to Taiwan, so I was actually diagnosed in Taiwan like really quick.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The doctor here, they doesn't know like what is lupus.
Yeah.
So and I have my mom has a friend. He has cancer, and the doctor told him that he could die in a half year, but actually he cured himself. So and then he is a doctor also. He's a brain doctor. So I went to him, and actually he explained it to me what is lupus. Lupus is not a family disease that your family has it, then you will have it. It's actually a normal person could have it, because he said that yes, it's an autoimmune disease, but it's actually there's one of the cell in your white blood cell that is causing lupus. Why it does that? Because that cell in white blood cells it actually oxidizes. Why would it oxidize? Because he explained it in a simple way. Is a human is like a bottle. So your bottle is bigger and my bottle is smaller. So your bottle is actually piled up with all the junks. When it piled up, it actually explodes. That's why it causes lupus.
Oh, okay.
So and why? How do you avoid lupus and flare, or how do you avoid that you have lupus? Is keep your cell oxidized. So the only way that you could keep your cell unoxidized is that you have to avoid some of the bad things, which is like fried stuff.
Unhealthy food.
Yeah, unhealthy food or add-on foods, like frozen foods.
Yeah, organic, raw vegetables, anything that is straight from Mother Earth is best. It's best for everyone.
Yeah.
For people with lupus, it's amplified. Like we need to be eating organic vegetables, fish, omega-3s, vitamins. We don't get vitamin D3 from the sun, so we need to be taking those vitamins or supplements to make sure we get that in our system. So you're absolutely right. And there was a Miss Comedian, I think she said her name was A. Woody. She also said that how she copes, or how people in her family cope, is continuing laughter. Keep laughing and, just keep bringing up things to make you happy and make you laugh. And that brings me to a point when I was in the hospital and I was really sick, thinking I was going to die and all that stuff. And you guys know how when you're on the prednisone, it makes you go crazy. It literally drives you insane, literally. And at that time, the doctors didn't know what was wrong with me, so they had me on 80 milligrams a day. And I can barely handle 20. At 20 a day, I don't sleep. So 80 a day, I was insane. I was diagnosed literally psychotic. No joke, but I was. Good thing I can look back and laugh now, but I remember I was just scared about every little thing. And my sister, who is on Periscope via Mother's Organic, she came and she laid in the bed with me, and she told me, she was like, Kim, you know what? One day we're gonna look back at this and we're gonna laugh at all of it, and we're just gonna say, you know, thank God that, you know, you made it through, but we're looking back now and we're just gonna laugh. She explained to me about the time where I think Mariah Carey had a nervous breakdown, and she's like, it's not just you, it's not just your lupus, it happens to anybody. People can have anxiety attacks, people can go through being scared, being depressed, feeling alone, feeling like, oh my gosh, I have lupus, what am I going to do? I don't even know what it is. And you get scared and you panic. And, you know, that's all that was. That's what happened. You know, sometimes we're on such a high dose of prednisone, we think that the world's coming to an end. Like everything I saw on TV, I was panicky. And my sister, she calmed me down and she made me laugh. And now when I think now looking back, I'm so appreciative that she tried to put that perspective on things. I know Juana, you wanted to say something.
No, I was gonna go and add on to like how she was saying that could be anybody or whatever. That's what I think people have to understand, that like it literally can be anybody. You don't have to be previously sick to say like, okay, guess what, lupus isn't gonna touch you, or it is gonna touch you because you're always sick. Like for me, this last month was 16 years with being diagnosed or whatever. And I did actually, it's funny how everybody like says the cancer thing, because I went through both. I went for a, like, no joke, super all-star, soccer star, everything, to like, bam, you can't even walk across the street or run, you know, across your yard or whatever, because like lupus was just like, okay, well, this summer, guess what? Everything's gone, you know. I think people have to really like understand that like you can really be like the healthiest person in the whole wide world, because I used to never get sick, never. Not up until I was diagnosed with lupus is when I actually started getting sick. I mean, the kids get sick, I get sick. You know, taking them to the doctor, I get sick. And like people don't get it, but I do know, like, well, one, you know, still thankful for finding you guys because. Like I said, 16 years, and I kept to myself because I was scared. You know, people didn't understand. Like, I've gone, I think, through almost everything that you could probably think of, and just learned from that. Like the rashes, I wore long sleeves. I still do it during summertime. Like, I wore long sleeves to hide from everybody. You know, I went through and I lost friends because, like you said, if they don't want to know, then they're not really your friends. Like, I'm thankful for the friends I have now, and then for the few that have come back around to learn why did I come up missing, you know, during high school. And, you know, that time where everybody's like out partying and hanging out and doing that, and then it's like, where was Juana? Juana was in and out the hospital. Juana was, you know, too busy being sick or whatever. Just like, people just don't understand that. And
you know what's the craziest is the fact that how you saying like you were so healthy and active, and me and my mom, we used to work out consistently every day, 7 days a week almost. And then it's like, you know, at 25 years old, you're so active and you're living a pretty healthy life. Like we didn't eat fast food, and you know, we lived a really healthy life, better than average, I believe. And then, you know, being told, oh, well, now you have a chronic illness, there's no cure, you also have fibromyalgia, you're probably going to develop osteopenia, have trouble breathing, can't be in the sun, you got to take 3 different pills per day, you might have to start being on a chemotherapy or infusion treatment for the rest of your life. Okay, tomorrow start that. It's like, that's hard to deal with.
Yeah, especially young, especially when you're young.
Yeah.
I know she was, what's your name again?
Tiffany.
Tiffany was telling me earlier that, you know, she, I don't know if you mind me telling them, but she went through a breakup in a relationship, and how that stress itself, just daily stress, how she's had a flare-up just from being stressed. So it's what can you do? What can you guys do? I mean, don't get in an argument with your mate. Don't eat the wrong thing. Don't go outside to get the mail.
Don't worry about the bills.
Yes, which is so you can't work.
Yeah,
don't call
work.
in
Can't
sick.
worry about exactly.
Don't let especially if you get lupus during the childbearing years. And Kim found out she had it right after she had Kamaya. So how do you wake up in the middle of the night for the baby? How do you have so much you guys have to deal with, and it's just I see you have 2 young babies and you have 5, and how do you deal with that? And it's so sad if you have lupus, it's just daily things, just road rage. Somebody jumping in front of you. Like she was telling me she went to the grocery store. She went to Sprouts and she's handicapped. She has a handicap sticker and she parked in a handicap and this older woman came up to her and cursed her out and told her, people like you and this isn't the first time. Because of people like you, we real handicapped people, we can't even park. So she tried to explain it, nicely, and finally she just had to tell her, go get in your car, just, whatever. Learn about lupus. She even gave the lady some literature on lupus. So you guys have to go through so much, and especially being a female and being the person in the house taking care of the babies, and it's hard. It's very hard on you, and my heart just goes out to all of you guys that have it and the caregivers, because it's so sad. I wish we could hurry up and find a cure. I really do.
And it can happen to you. I know it happened to a lot of you when you were young, but I was diagnosed at 41. So I've been pretty healthy all, my whole life. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't party. So, it can happen to someone healthy, someone older. So, don't think, well, I'm already older, so I'm fine. But I was 41 when I was diagnosed, and it just came out of nowhere. And actually, Kim was the one that kept saying, I don't wish it on you, but it sounds like this is what you have. And sure enough, that's what it was.
Well, you look like you're 30.
Oh.
So.
Yeah,
and that was the reason why, I really wanted to have a support group on the Caregivers Perspective, because it is so hard for us to live with it. But imagine, your daughter, your young daughter, and us seeing them so sick and just in so much pain where they're laying there that they can't move and you can't do anything about it, So yeah, we feel it and we live it, but imagine them seeing you that way and there's nothing they can do. They can't say, well, can you take some more prednisone, or can you just, just lay down and rest? Can you just,
Well, the kids, I don't even know what happened that day. That day's like almost erased. But I just literally, like, my body just quit. And the 2 older ones, they came in the room like, are you on drugs? Because I couldn't get up. And it looked like, when you're on like really heavy medication and you're just in and out of sleep and you're kind of like trying to conversate with them and tell them like, okay, go do this, go help your brother or help your sister. Yeah. And they're like, are you sure you didn't take medication? And then, because they know that I don't. After everything that I've been through and what medication has done to me, they know I don't. So they were just like, are you sure? Because you really look like you're on medication, and it's
I think sometimes, even though the caregivers, I know sometimes you guys really, you want to help. What can I do? Sometimes it might be in their and your best interest just to leave them alone. Sometimes you might have to realize, okay, I've asked them, can I help you with anything? Is there anything I can do? And then sometimes you just got to leave them alone, because you can't get it, they can't get you. It's just going to make things more frustrating. Just let maybe a few hours or maybe a day go by and just let them just, So another way to cope one option might be just leave them alone.
For everybody.
Well, I know in the beginning, I really didn't tell my kids when I wasn't feeling good because I didn't want them to worry. You know, as much as you guys feel bad for us, it's even worse for us to watch you guys hurt for us.
Yes.
And I think for me that was the hardest thing to cope with.
Yeah.
And that's more stressful and cause, you know, you to still stay sick. So I know for me, I didn't tell anyone how I felt, but my kids would know because I would seclude myself in the room or just, you know, stay in bed, and they would leave me alone. But for the most part, and then there was a point where they would get upset at me and say, you know, just what do you need, or tell us what's going on. And I think I took all that burden because I didn't want to see them hurting for me. You know, I didn't want them to know what I was going through, and I know that that's a lot to carry on us. But it's really hard to see your loved one worry about you.
And I think the hardest part about that is because you're going through it on that end, but then on the caregiver's end, it's like
you still know what's going on.
Yeah, regardless of whether you're hiding it or not, we can still see it. We may not know exactly how much pain you're in physically, but we know there's something wrong, so the worry doesn't just
I know.
go away
My
or
kids
stop,
would get
you know
mad
what I
at
mean?
me and say, "Mom, just tell us, you know, what you need to talk to us." And it took me a long time to be able to communicate with them. So communication is a key, but you also know when to step back when they're not feeling so good, because that, you know, like I said, that's a lot of extra stress on us too, to see you guys hurting. And you know, it's hard. It's hard for anyone to do.
And I think as a mother to a child, and you guys will understand this as a mother too, it's like when your child when a baby falls and he breaks his arm and he's in so much pain, and you want to switch places. You're like, if I could just take the pain for you, and you can't do that, so it's frustrating. You know.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I think as a supportive, like a family member with lupus, I think they need to be a reminder, because like for me, like sometimes I don't realize I am tired.
Yes.
Yeah, like I would, I need to do my housework, and I would just keep on working. But I need someone like to remind me that you know, you need to stop. You need to rest for a few hours.
You can't do all those things, Kim.
All of you.
Yeah, I think someone like next to it needs to remind that person.
And that's good, because sometimes it's hard to have. With that point, sometimes it's hard to have like the perfect balance, because you either have someone who's overly doing it or someone who doesn't do it. So it's hard to get that person right in the middle, but that is good, because my mom, by the time she was diagnosed, she already had 3 kids. So she was ripping and running all the time. She was a stay-at-home mom. She had it under control, but then she just had to stop. And that's just, you know, that was the hard part for her.
Learning balance is hard.
Yeah, it's hard to figure out what you can and cannot do, and then you don't want to restrict yourself. And this is just me looking from the outside at what she was doing. I don't know personally, but just from seeing her, she didn't want to have to stop. She didn't want to have to slow down. She didn't want to not be able to go outside and play with us. But so I really, really thank everybody for sharing. I feel like we all kind of got these feelings out, things that are kind of hard to say to your family member. I'm sorry,
can I just share one more last thing about lupus? And I know we didn't really touch base on kids testing. You know, like kids can test positive, and my daughter has also tested positive with her. She's been going through, you know, she's a caregiver, but now, you know, we're going through that phase as well with her. So, you know, she tested positive, and some test results as well, and it's really hard. So
sometimes it does run in the family.
They're really
they're not positive on that. Like some people say, well, you know, you're not going to get it, but no one's sure about that. So no one should ever say, because I know 2 sisters that have it.
Yeah.
So it can.
It already runs in my family.
Yeah, I believe that.
There's a lot of still tests. They don't know if it's hereditary, genetic, if it's environmental, or you know what it's from yet.
True.
They're not sure.
They're not sure yet.
Yeah.
They say genetics play a factor as well as
Environmental.
environment. So there are some genetic factors. Not saying that if my mom has it, I have it, because nobody else in my family has lupus. My grandmother has scleroderma, which is like a cousin of lupus, but nobody that we are aware of had or has lupus. So they do say genetics play a factor, but they honestly, I don't believe that they really know.
They don't know. I don't think nobody
because
knows.
you see two sisters with it, you see a mom and daughter with it, and then you see someone have it and nobody has it. It, like she mentioned before, anybody can get it. A man, a woman, a child, an older person, you know. So I think that it's important for everyone to share their stories because the awareness needs to get out there because there's people out there that have it and don't even know.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to share that and for the people, out there too. So it's something that nobody can have it in your family and then there can be a couple and, it's really tough. So, it's just a process,
I want to add, Cindy, my daughter also tested positive for it. And when I took her to the rheumatologist, she had none of the symptoms. So he said it's just, it could happen to her, but since she doesn't have any of the symptoms, that he wouldn't say that she has actual lupus. But she did test positive for it. The gene basically, it could be active. But at the time she had no, and she still doesn't have any of the symptoms. So she's not per se have a lupus, but she did test positive for having the gene for it.
I did a lupus study, and they had asked for my siblings to offer blood too, and my sister turned out positive, and so did my dad, but they are not sick at all. So you can be positive and still not be sick.
Yeah, you guys
I'm
have
the
to
only
remember
one that's
the positive
sick.
ANA test does not mean, honestly, it doesn't mean anything. But if you test positive, where you get positive ANA, along with the 11 other symptoms, then that's when they throw the actual diagnosis. But you can have a positive ANA and you don't have lupus. You can have a positive ANA and have 3 of the symptoms and still not be diagnosed. So,
and our problem is that she's been having the symptoms for the past 2 years, many symptoms, and she tested positive, and we've been waiting for a rheumatologist for a year, and they say she's not sick enough to get seen by a rheumatologist because there's too many other kids sick.
And the
that's the
symptoms
problem.
are swelling in your joints, fatigue, hair loss, rash, chest pains, shortness of breath.
Which she shows many of those.
That's 5.
That I'm forgetting.
Organ and
the mouth sores.
ulcers, nose sores,
The butterfly rash, sun sensitivity, or even certain light sensitivity. What other symptoms are there? Help me out.
For me was the whole wolf bite. Because I had the wolf bite, I had the butterfly rash. I mean, that's pretty much like the one that gave it away with the ER doctor, because my primary, she didn't have a clue. Like you said, the swelling, the rashes.
There's 11, but did you say chest pain?
Fatigue, inflammation, swollen.
Sometimes you get
blurry
vision. The blurry vision, and I think that's about 11. Yeah.
We'll just say that's 11.
Yeah. I think we're short too.
So what I'll do, and then, we're gonna wrap things up soon. And for those there on Periscope, what I'll also do is post information for those that might be interested. If you should know and you want to know the exact 11 symptoms, I'll post something via Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. And please remember, if you have questions or anything, you can email me. So if we didn't answer anything here today, I wish that we had more caregivers here today to give their perspective, but I think that those of us with lupus did a really good job sharing how we can imagine how the caregivers feel. So I'll let Alana wrap it up.
Yeah, so like Kim said, I thank you guys, everyone here, the few caregivers that I have, and then also the people with lupus. It's good to hear you guys' perspective on how you think we feel as well. So that's a really good thing. And then I can't remember who mentioned it, but I think it was Kim who said that sometimes you need to just leave the person alone, give that space. And I think sometimes nonverbal communication is a great way to communicate how you're feeling. So I think that everyone here who has their caregiver should give them a hug, tell them how much you appreciate them, so that we can end this on a wonderful note. And everyone on Periscope, hug your caregivers.
Handshake. What a
Okay.
Yes. Oh, okay. Well, that's what you can text me. Thank you.
Oh, okay. You came to my house in time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Big hug to you too, sis.
Yeah.
Kelly. Just give me a hug.
Okay, so we're going to end it. I hope that everyone enjoyed it. And like I mentioned, if you have any questions or concerns, please just send an email, a text message. I hope that most of you guys have my number. Stay out of the sun because it's hot. But in case you don't, I don't mind giving it out. It's 909-802-6930. And thank you, sis. And I just thank you guys for joining us. I know it was our first time doing this Periscope, so I'm sorry if it was, crazy or not understandable. But thank you guys for joining us. Thank you to our special host, Alana. And again, any questions, call me 909-802-6930 or email us at housefoundation@yahoo.com. And we're going to sign off now. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
There you go. It's hot out here.
That was really a nice meeting.
Did I
I
do
love you.
okay?
Did so good, even though I almost busted up.
When that girl called me a big bottle.